Coming up next on Democracy Does, the Civic Power Playbook.
How do you have a conversation when someone is really trapped in that one focused vision of being angry and not feeling empathy? Because when you're hurting, it's hard to feel empathy.
Everyone deserves to be heard and valued and respected. And when we're not doing that, that's when people go off the rails.
That's up next. Welcome to Democracy Does, the Civic Power Playbook, a podcast that cuts through the noise to explain what's really happening in our democracy. Each episode breaks down key issues with insight from policy experts and change makers, giving you clear tips to take action. Whether you're fired up or feeling stuck, you're in the right place to get informed and get inspired, because democracy works best when we all participate.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Democracy Does, the Civic Power Playbook. We are so happy that you're joining us again. And I'm really honored to have our guest with us today. He is Retired Sergeant Douglas Brinker. He has served in both the Navy as well as the Army National Guard. His service has taken him all over the world. He has served in Beirut, later was part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So he has served honorably, but that service also came with a high price. He has had some mental health challenges, but he's come out of this darkness to not only survive, but to thrive. Today he is an author. He has written the book, My Dark Shadow, From a Suicidal Self to a Purpose of Hope. He is a sought-after speaker, and now he supports other veterans who are facing their own crises. I am so thrilled and appreciative and honored to have you with us today, Douglas Brinker. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
I have so many things to talk to you about because you served, and that is a dedication that a lot of people don't know. Tell me what it meant for you to serve. Tell me about your service and what did it mean to serve?
My story goes back to 1981, actually, and I share this with other individuals when the opportunity presents itself. I wasn't prepared and equipped to attend college and was told by the administration counselors that your chance of success the first semester would be about that because you didn't prepare yourself. That was 1981 Eastern Michigan University. So I thought, well, I've got to do something. I'm not going to bag groceries or do dishes all my life. And so I made that move to join the Navy, and I ended up going in on the delayed entry program June 19th of 1981. Later, October 19th, 1981 would find me in Great Lakes, Illinois Recruit Training Command. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've never been to a military boot camp installation, it's quite large. And coming from a somewhat of a smaller town, that installation alone was much bigger than my community.
Wow.
And I joined for two reasons. One is not just that the military would give me some form of purpose and direction, but obviously we know, as you've heard the saying go, join the Navy, see the world. And I did just that.
What did serving mean to you?
Serving meant something larger than life, something that many of us do on a regular basis, but we really don't understand the full effect and reasons why we serve. And I think that's the challenge that our nation faces as a whole is you serve with gratitude. You serve with dignity, respect, honor, integrity. I value, I've grown up on the values of what not just the military has taught me, but the values of what life has taught me. And if you don't work on strengthening those values, your your integrity, your self-worth decreases drastically.
Do you feel like you see that those type of traits in where we are today, specifically within public discourse, within our political figures?
Well, I'm sure there's a few, but
Okay.
then there's the other side of the house that, for whatever reason, and their own reasons, have to be accepted because this is a free country after all. The millions of men and women who served freely to give this country the right to do and say what they want, while many or some might disagree with what is being said or done by a select group of people, we still have to honor that first, that freedom of speech.
And I'm glad you say that because when we had a chance to talk earlier, you made it clear that you don't consider yourself one side of the political
Now,
aisle or the other.
I got friends on both sides,
Hmm.
and this country was founded or should have continued to be mindful that we all serve under the same flag, red, white, and blue. And some of us have lost that. And it doesn't matter whether it's this side of the aisle, that side of the aisle, down the middle of the aisle. Some have lost what the men and women who have given their life for that flag behind me, they've lost that purpose, that direction, that perspective in life. And our country needs a reset. It's like somebody needs to just grab a hold of the world and shake it upside down and dump out all the garbage, whatever that might be, and let it tip it back up like a snow globe, tip it back up and let real society back in fall back into place.
How do we get that back?
That's $1 million question because it takes more than just one voice to advocate for the right society, whatever that looks like. It's like an onion. This country has many layers, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, and some choose to be part of the indifferent, some choose to be part of the good, some choose to be part of the bad for whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure there's a zillion reasons why some are creating such discourse in our society.
One of the things that you had mentioned in our earlier conversation was that there's a lot to be said for empathy, and it seems as if empathy is missing right now. Can you talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit? From your
yeah,
perspective, not only as a
yeah.
veteran, but as a citizen, as someone who's relied on benefits, just tell me your thoughts on that.
So, from my perspective, empathy needs to be, I guess, retaught in the classroom because some of our younger leaders aren't taking it out into the real world. And they're getting, in my opinion, they're getting their minds colored with a number of influential reasons. And if you lose, it's like purpose. If you lose direction of where you're going, then you lose purpose. And some, as a whole, have lost direction, and they've lost that empathy for their fellow Americans. We've become a society where everybody wants to be a cowboy and carry a gun. Everybody thinks they don't have the right as a Second Amendment to carry a weapon that kills. But some don't deserve to have that weapon. And some choose not to go serve their country to have a right to have a weapon. And that's where that empathy has fallen short. It's a hate me world. Everybody hates this, hates that, hates this, hates that, from whatever, whether it's religion, whether it's the situation of the state of affairs in our country. Everybody has an opinion of having a reason to be on the opposite side and hate things instead of being on the good side and having a positive purpose and direction to have that empathy. Because, I mean, listen, I do it for a living. I work in a position where I have to be empathetic. But I like to be empathetic because there were times that I probably wasn't as so much for my fellow friends and colleagues and neighbors, and it's come back to, bite me where.
Well, how did it change? How did you change? What made you change?
I started associating myself with positive, influential people and purposes and things in life that give me a sense of good direction and give me a reason to continue to push myself outside my comfort zone and challenge myself and accept constructive feedback when I've made something wrong. And everybody gets on the defense now. If you criticize somebody for anything, if their values are completely different from yours, their moral compass is just spinning out of control. Mm-hmm. And that's why people, in my opinion, that's why many of us lash out at different experiences, events, situations, be it political climate.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that.
We lash out at all kinds of platforms.
That's right.
I mean, I even did today. I shared my thoughts personally about the rise and the fall of the Detroit Tigers this year.
Okay, that's fair. You're based in Michigan. That's fair.
Yeah, they were doing great.
Did that spark debate?
They've run into a wall. But you think about that. It's just a sport. But perhaps the team has lost direction. They lost purpose. They're not working as hard to achieve the positive outcome. That means going farther into the playoffs, perhaps the World Series, etc. If you think about that in just everyday life, many of us want to look at the negative aspect. We don't want to look at the positive outcomes. We don't want to challenge ourselves outside that box because we're comfortable right here.
That's right. And sometimes it seems as if our vision has gotten even more and more narrow. We're going through in our own little silos. That's right.
That's right.
That being said, how do you think veterans are being treated right now? There have been a lot of cuts that have been made to certain programs, and understandably so, from what I have researched. people are angry. And you are in the position of talking to your comrades, your colleagues, veterans, other veterans who are probably very angry.
Yep.
How do you have a conversation when someone is really trapped in that one focused vision of being angry and not feeling empathy? Because when you're hurting, it's hard to feel empathy.
It is, but everybody deserves to have their feelings heard. No, maybe not for an hour and a half, but still the point, everyone deserves to be heard and valued and respected. And when we're not doing that, that's when people go off the rails. I shared that I was working with a fellow vet that believes for what he served, he has not been rewarded for.
Mhm.
That the country has done him wrong and continue to doing him wrong by not providing the benefits that he agreed to defend that flag for those benefits.
Mhm.
And with cuts now, I participated just a month and a half or so ago, and I heard the Veteran Affairs leadership speak of how they will refuse to let our veteran community fall on a sword of funding cuts. Okay, what are we doing about it though?
Right.
We're getting rid of a person that's worked a job for 25 years, have provided for their family, have dedicated their life to public service. We're just going to say, bye-bye. You're no longer needed. We need to save the $125,000 that we're paying you a year. And you wonder why we have a poverty level. You wonder why kids are only eating once a day.
Mhm.
You wonder why two-parent parties are having to work 120 hours a week just to provide, because it costs you $650 for a grocery cart of groceries that only lasts for 5 to 7 days on most families, not all families, but most families. I mean, I grew up in a time where it cost $180 for groceries for the week to feed 7 people and $80 in meats. Now you'll spend $300 just in meats alone.
Easily,
I
easily.
mean, $5.99 for a package of ground beef burger because the farmer needs to make a living. The cow needs to get fed to
Right.
produce all that.
Right. What do you think it will take to turn things around? And I'm not talking even on the big scale. I'm talking about on a smaller local community scale where people can start talking to each other again and having that type of empathy and purpose that you're referring to.
It takes the numbers. The numbers I witnessed 2 years ago at a Veterans of Foreign Wars convention when we were fighting for the PACT Act to get passed.
What was
And
that?
the PACT Act is that burn pits to provide compensation to veterans who have been exposed to burn pits
Mhm.
throughout their exposure of Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan,
Okay. Thank you
and
for
to pay
explaining that.
them accordingly for that they didn't ask to be exposed to. And I remember how over 8,000 people shut down the Washington call center, the switchboard, because they blew up the legislative phones, text messages, phone calls so much that they shut the system down. That's what it takes to move the needle is the numbers. You look
Mhm.
at all the organizations that have the large numbers, they're the ones that get the greatest impact
Mhm.
in this country. And And it's going to take, and it's not having a war cry for protesting rallies on this issue and that issue. It just takes people like you and I and others who think they don't have a voice that actually do to get outside their comfort zone, reach out and share their concerns with their legislators, and say, hey, I will not stand for this. I want you to know my position.
I really love that you say that. This comes at a perfect time because one of the things that we do on this show is we always talk about how everybody's voice matters, as you just said. And we have something called the Civic Power Playbook. And I want to know what your power plays are, Sergeant Brinker, that you would tell your 3 tips that you would tell someone who says, I don't know what to do. I don't think I have any power. What can I do to even make a difference? From the perspective of a veteran, a citizen, an advocate, a speaker, an author, what do you think someone can do? What are 3 tips?
3 tips is A, discover your purpose. Every one of us has a purpose to serve. If you don't know what it is, I'll be more than happy to help you discover that purpose. Second is be accepted to play. Give yourself permission to play. I learned that from a great Toastmaster friend of mine who talked about play. And many of us don't give ourselves permission to just disconnect, unplug everything, and get out of our head all the negative noise going on. And then finally is perspective. When you put things into perspective with purpose and play, you get hope. And hope is helping one person every day achieve greatness.
That's tremendous. Thank you so much. Those are what I love about that is those are actionable tips that people can do that no matter what your affiliation is, you can play with someone. If you share the same purpose about what's good, what's right, you can make things happen. And perspective. Sometimes when you know other people's what they've gone through, it changes how you see them.
In the mental health world, you've never experienced until you walked a mile in my shoes. You don't know what that person's gone through. So you can't relate. And if you can't relate, you can't build rapport. And if you can't build rapport, then you've lost that passion to have purpose and hope and everything. And then everything goes downhill. And once you go downhill, you don't know how to get back up in the right positive ways.
It was an absolute delight. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, and a pleasure to share my thoughts and my perspective on what I've experienced in 62 years of being alive.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Time for a recap. Here are Retired Sergeant Douglas Brinker's top power plays, and they're all about the 3 Ps. First, purpose. He says, it may sound easy, but give yourself the space to really think about your purpose and what makes your life feel meaningful. Also, step back and simply play. Give yourself a chance to unplug and step away from all the negative noise. And finally, perspective. Gain perspective about your situation and maybe hear from someone else. He says that allows you to connect with others in surprising ways. And if you want to learn more, you can go to his website, DouglasBrinker, BRINKER.com. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you're feeling a little more hopeful, a little less stuck, and maybe even inspired to take action, because democracy does work when we all participate. Want more? You can go to my website, democracydoes.com, and sign up to get our newsletter, alerts on when our next episode drops, and as a bonus, you'll get a free community engagement toolkit with ideas on how to get involved at your comfort level. Let's get in the game together. Until next time, I'm your host, Robin Hamilton.